Well, here we are, my friends. The last day of the year and the end of the decade. And what a year it's been. We've had highs and lows. We've had good, bad, and ugly. We've had predictable failures and surprising hits. And needless to say, 2019 has been a pretty eventful year for me and this channel. I started the year with 300 subscribers. Now I've got almost 300,000. Anyway, since it's New Year's Eve and all, I thought it might be fitting to take a few minutes to look back and reflect on the year that lies behind us. I'll pick out some of the highlights and memorable moments and look ahead to what 2020 might hold. So charge your glasses and join me for the first annual episode of The Drinker Reflects. So in a lot of ways, 2019 was a year of endings and conclusions. A lot of the major franchises that have dominated film and TV over the past decade have come to an end one way or another this year. Some went out with a triumphant blaze of glory, while others staggered across the finish line, collapsed in an undignified heap, and promptly soiled themselves. And believe me, I know all about that. Avengers Endgame marked the conclusion of the decade-long Infinity Saga. Yeah, I'm sure they'll keep churning out Marvel movies as long as there's money to be made, but it really feels like their biggest and best story, not to mention their mightiest heroes, took their final bow this year. We'll never see their like again, and for the most part, they were allowed to go out in style. Not every franchise has been so lucky though. Game of Thrones' disastrous final season showed us all what happens when writers whose only real skill is their ability to copy and paste finally run out of material to work with, plot threads to endlessly spin out, and enthusiasm for what they're doing. It's a season whose failure effectively tarnished the whole reputation of a show that was once considered the pinnacle of TV. X-Men Dark Phoenix was the underwhelming final entry in a franchise that's been around for almost 20 years now, stumbling out the gate and bombing spectacularly before vanishing into obscurity. And considering how much the X-Men movies did for mainstream comic book adaptations, it's tough to think of a more humiliating way for them to go out. Likewise, 2019 also marked the end of the Skywalker saga. Thank God. The Rise of Skywalker was a movie so completely out of ideas and plot threads to work with, and so desperate to please everyone, that it ended up satisfying no one and accomplishing nothing. A movie that pretty much epitomizes just how badly Star Wars has been mismanaged by Disney. The hubris, greed, egos, and complete lack of planning or imagination finally proved to be their undoing, and I have to say, their failure was entirely of their own making. Now, it's no secret that in recent years, politics and social agendas have begun to creep insidiously into most of our favourite movie and TV franchises, usually accompanied by a sharp decline in writing quality, viewing figures, and general audience interest. And of course, with this kind of failure comes the inevitable name-calling, blame-shifting, and hit-piece articles from our increasingly irrelevant friends in the mainstream media. 2019 has seen a string of high-profile flops that tried and failed to ride the wave of identity politics, without realising it's less of a wave and more of a toilet bowl that sucks movies down to their doom. Terminator Dark Fate's misguided reliance on 1990s nostalgia and 2019 feminism failed to cover for a tired and derivative story featuring a cast of has-beens and never-will-be's, and ultimately turned people away from a movie that nobody really wanted in the first place. Another sad end to a once great franchise. Charlie's Angels, meanwhile, managed to do nothing except to alienate just about anyone who might have been interested in it, and that was a pretty small group to begin with. Attempts by the director to guilt and shame people into seeing their shitty movie only added further fuel to the fire. Batwoman and Supergirl both leaned hard into identity politics with equally disastrous results. Batwoman was a train wreck from the very first episode, while Supergirl took a generally successful, if slightly cheesy superhero show and turned people away in droves. Even the mighty Rise of Skywalker suffered from the backlash against the aggressive politics and disastrous writing of The Last Jedi. As hard as it tried to correct these problems, the damage to the Star Wars brand was done and its fate was sealed. All of these movies and shows failed hard in 2019, exposing the increasingly widening gulf between professional critics afraid to say what they really think and actual real people who don't give a shit what they think anymore. It's a year where Hollywood has begun to learn that all the flattering articles written by all the shill journalists in the world and all the likes and retweets from woke social activists means absolutely nothing compared to that good old profit and loss statement. That's the problem with numbers, you see. They always add up. Speaking of which, the overwhelming success of movies like Joker demonstrated just how hungry audiences are for smart, honest movies that focus on telling a good story with interesting characters and leave the politics out of it. The upcoming Ghostbusters 3 does everything possible to distance itself from the disastrous 2016 reboots, and even Rise of Skywalker, for all its faults, pretty much abandoned identity politics in the hopes of salvaging something from the mess of its predecessor. It seems like Hollywood just might be getting the message we've been sending for the past several years. We want to be entertained, not lectured. We want to be inspired, not patronised. And we want to be captivated, not vilified. Now, that's not to say we're completely out of the woods yet. There are still fanatics clinging to their positions of power, and the more they feel it slipping away, the harder they'll fight to maintain their grip. The financial success of Captain Marvel, which was so carefully timed, marketed, and protected from any form of negativity that it basically couldn't fail, is still feverishly trumpeted as proof that audiences loved its preachy, idealised main character and its insufferably smug star. And all I can say to that is, it'll be real interesting to see how the sequel does when it doesn't have the biggest movie of the decade to lean on for support. But on the whole, it does feel like the tide might finally be turning, and I believe 2019 may go down as the year the fans started to be heard at last. It's a shame so many good franchises had to be caught in the crossfire though. And as for little old me, well, 2019 turned out to be pretty good, all things considered. YouTube has taken my life in a pretty unexpected direction over the past 12 months. It's opened the door to all kinds of opportunities, allowed me to collaborate with creators I've liked and respected for a long time, many of whom I now consider friends. I don't know if they feel the same way about me though. I'll never forget the first time I joined a livestream one evening for a quick chat with some of my favourite YouTubers, only to log off 8 hours later with the sun coming up, an empty bottle of Jack by my side, and no idea where the time went. I have no regrets about this. The point I'm trying to make here is that my very lucky break has given me a real platform to do things, meet people, and talk about stuff I've been passionate about for years. In short, it's been fucking awesome. The good news is that I plan to build on that success in the year ahead, putting more time and effort into producing the very best content I can. 2019 may have been the end for many of our favourite movies and TV shows, but for me, it might just be the beginning of something pretty special. Now, I guess it's time to wrap this pish up, because I imagine many of you will be getting ready to go out and party, welcoming in the new year with style, optimism and celebration. Or, like me, you may wake up in a puddle of your own urine after being unceremoniously ejected from your local strip club because you couldn't pay for any more drinks. Don't worry, Tatiana, I'll be back soon. But however you choose to ring in 2020, I wish all of you the very best for the year ahead. To my friends and fellow content creators that I've been lucky enough to meet this year, I hope you find continued success and fulfillment in what you do. And for all the people that have helped make this channel what it is, the countless messages of encouragement and advice, and the patrons who have been so generous in supporting my work directly, you have my sincere thanks and appreciation. To all of you, Happy New Year, and I'll catch you in 2020. Anyway, that's all I've got for this year. Go away now.